Hello and welcome to episode 88 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, how are things?
Things are good in Denmark, my friend. What about in Canada?
Good. Like I was telling you, I have sort of ventured into the PC gaming space in ordering a computer. So I've spent the last week completely trying to educate myself on something that I have no chance of being able to understand in the span of a week.
Wow. I imagine it's like what people who aren't regular listeners of the Boot Nerds podcast feel when they, stumble upon one of our episodes and just, open the world of football boots. It's a big world, right?
That is exactly the example that I was thinking while sat at the computer store, having this guy explain to me what I do and don't need in a computer for what I'm going to use it for.
Yeah. But I mean, let's just put it like this. He was probably a hardcore nerd, right? And on the other hand, he was also pretty awesome. Nerds are awesome.
They are.
Yeah. Boot nerds and all that stuff. But anyways, computer sounds good. Are you going to use it for like racing simulations and stuff?
Pretty much. That's all I'm going to use it for. But we'll see. We'll see how into it I end up being.
Does that mean you're killing off the car problems channel and just calling it car? Now you don't have a problem anymore?
Oh, the car problems channel where I make a video every 3 months. Yeah, exactly. it's arguably already dead.
You're basically turning into the car equivalent of Jolter, just like making a video once in a while, coming back saying, yo, the man has returned, and then never to be seen again for like a full year. But that's a whole other discussion. But in today's episode 88, we're going to talk about something that we've kind of touched upon it before, but are the brands running out of ideas, and why are they releasing similar looking stuff at more or less the same time? So in the wake of the Adidas Precision to Blur pack, which is, I would definitely say it's on the bold side. We've got some pretty, I reckon it's a good looking pack, but we've got some pretty wild colorways. Copa's pretty, I would say it's pretty toned down. But then we have this bad boy. I don't know what to say. It's definitely bold, and maybe I'm just getting too old, but it's maybe a little too old, too much for me. But the funny thing is that this is not the only purple and orangey, greenish boot to come out right now, because as you can show people, PUMA have also released, actually, it's more or less, it's the same. They released the Halloween pack, which is a future with a lot of eyes on it, I guess, and then the Ultra, which is also very, I mean, if you didn't know better and there weren't like brand logos on, you could suspect them to be the same pack. What do you say?
It's pretty remarkable how they must have planned like a year ago. Hey, November 2020, weird purple colors with way too colorful accents.
But the thing is that, just like we see in the fashion industry, there are these like trends, color trends, fabric trends that people tend to use. So the brands will most likely have consulted these like fashion trend companies who have told them, fall 2020, we will need some like bold colors to pop. The it color in colorway of fall 2020 will be purple. And then the brands have listened and said, okay, let's do purple. And apparently maybe they're using the same like trend company. I'm not sure, but we've seen this, going back to 2005, 6, through 10, 11, 12. I mean, where Adi, Nike, and PUMA have released colorways that all look a lot alike.
Yeah, and I wonder if I know they do these studies in hopes of trying to release colorways that are going to appeal to as many people as possible, but I wonder if it's one of those situations where they say, hey, we're PUMA. If Nike and Adi are going to release a purple boot as well, let's release our own purple boot and make people have to choose between the purple boots. I wonder if there's some of that. I don't know that you would call that gamesmanship, but because here's the thing. If all three brands, let's say the big three brands, release colorway packs on the same day and they're all different from each other, is it more likely that a customer is going to buy the colorway that they like the best, regardless of what brand it's from, where if all the colorways are similar, now they have to kind of choose beyond just the color?
But is that a wise decision from Puma? I mean, if they have to base, okay, say I want a purple boot, and I don't know how many people actually want a purple boot. That's a whole other discussion. But let's say, okay, I want a purple boot. I have these 3 options. Would Puma would it be smart of them to go head to head with Nike and Adidas and say, okay, you get a purple boot no matter what you choose, just choose the model you'd rather have? Okay, then pricing comes into consideration as well. 200 euros against 250 euros, but still, like, would you take the purple boots with the eyes on, or would you take the purple boot with the Northern Light thing on? I mean,
that's what I was gonna say. You can ask, is it wise to release a purple football boot? But then you can also ask, is it wise to release a purple football boot covered in green eyeballs? That's right. We're going down a rabbit hole that just never seems to end.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they did it for Halloween, and it's a fun gimmick, but still, it's a purple boot with green eyeballs all over it.
I'm going to say this much about Puma's Halloween pack, which it's interesting to see a brand release a football boot for a holiday that, especially in 2020 with the whole COVID situation and trick-or-treating kind of being, I would say, borderline illegal depending on where you live. It seemed kind of strange, but obviously they could have never predicted that this was necessarily going to happen. But you release a colorway pack for Halloween that seemed to have come and gone, and almost nobody cared this year. So, but the fact that they're just so bold looking, and look, you can say what you want about the Future. It's certainly not for everybody. I think they look a lot better on feet. And if you're just looking to stand out, I mean, this is going to do that about as well as anything possibly could. But I really do like the look of the Ultra. And the feedback, I've had it in 2 videos now, and the feedback seems to be overwhelmingly positive in terms of the overall look. Out of all of the regular Puma releases, to me, this is actually the best colorway that they've done.
How
yours is a limited. I'm not talking about the Unisport JayMike ketchup and mustard pack. This
friendship over. Wow.
But these are quite cool. I like the detail in them.
Okay, let me just try and phrase this. Okay, I get what you're saying. I definitely think you have a point in saying that they're popping. They're interesting. I like the tooling a lot. That's the whole cracked effect is pretty cool. Maybe that whole purple thing is just not for me. You know, purple and neon whatever it's not my kind of jam, I'll be honest. But it's definitely it stands out. And I think if there's a boot that can carry such a thing, it's the Ultra, because it is a very expressive, it's a bold, very modern looking silo, right? But be honest, would you wear it in a match?
I'd wear the Ultras. And you know what? Because I think you can play it off as like, oh, it's a Joker colorway, or it's the Hulk, or it's something like that. Like I don't know. The Ultra I can get behind. As weird as the color combination is, I'm okay with it. It's the eyeball boot that's a little bit more like, I feel like every time you play in these, you're gonna have people asking, what are those?
What are you on?
And you better have like a really good response to explain yourself. Otherwise, I don't know. This is just, I feel like you're just asking to kind of be roasted with this.
And it's not even like, you know, if you go out there in gold boots, you're asking to be kicked. I mean, people are going to come at you. But it's like in those, they're not even going to bother. It's like they can't even take it seriously. So I appreciate the effort from Puma, but that's definitely, for me, they should take it back to the drawing board. I mean, and also, you know, like they release a Halloween boot on Halloween. And then you buy it and you wait for it to arrive. And then with shipping, you know, you get it 3, 4, 5 days after Halloween. Then you have a Halloween boot for next year. Like, what's the?
Yeah, but I don't know how many people are buying these just to wear them on one specific holiday. You know what? I'm not as mad at Puma for this particular pack. I think they're okay. I think if there's reason to be offended on colorways, that Adidas Nemeziz is quite offensive, in my opinion.
Do you think it's worse?
Oh, 100%. That is awful. You know what that reminds me of? And I feel like I've brought up that like really colorful ice cream that I used to pick as a kid way too many times on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it looks like you've started to mix. The ice cream is like softened. It's melted a little bit. And you started to mix it around and all the colors have swirled. And you're like 3 mixes away from the boots, from all the colors mixing together and just turning brown.
Okay.
That's what that kind of reminds me of. I don't know. It's just...
The funny thing, when we did the video on these, we actually discussed that like a Danish ice cream called Zap, which is basically like purple and has all the colors of the Nemeziz, and it's just like a tie-dye mix of colors, really. I also think this is a bit of a train wreck of especially we saw the atmospheric pack, and I thought, you know, the whole graphic they did, that whole like, it's almost, what is it? It's almost like an Aurora kind of graphic, to be honest. And it's, I get the idea, but I just thought it looked way better on the atmospheric pack. It's a little bit offensive to me, and you just don't mix this kind of purple with orange and neon green. It's like, tooling, however, is very cool. I'll be honest.
Yeah, with that like oil slick finish. I don't know. To me, my issue with that is I can see why somebody might like it, although I'm not sure there's that many people out there at this point, especially because the Nemeziz is already kind of a weird silhouette as it is, especially the Plus model. But I don't know. It looks like it could be like the decor in one of those over the top, way over decorated candy shops, and it's just like sitting on a shelf as decoration, and it just blends into its environment. I don't know. It's weird. I could never. But
this is better, right? This is better. Oh, you think that's worse?
You know what? See that with the pink sole plate? That looks to me like. You ever seen one of those boots where they have like the sample of like all the possible colors worked into one? That could be like a what the Nemeziz color. And I think if it was presented to me as that, I might be a little bit more inclined to like it. But knowing that that's just supposed to be a regular colorway, like is Messi going to wear that?
I mean, I like this better than that train wreck of a Barcelona boot he got a couple of months ago. This is a little more, but yeah, I just
like what's like imagine this. You're Leo Messi and Adidas you get this box in the mail. All right, Messi, here's your new boots, and he pulls them out and those are them. Like I'd be reconsidering my lifetime contract.
The thing about the precision to blur pack is that we have the Preds, which are here, obviously.
Yeah.
We have the Preds, which I reckon are actually pretty cool. They give me that electricity yellow Predator accelerator vibe. It has that. It's bold and it's popping, but in still it looks like it's a cool looking football boot still. It doesn't ruin the Predators, and that's pretty impressive. And that matches the X-Ghoster pretty well. I think these two colors, you can definitely see that they belong together. And then you have the Copa and the Nemeziz, which I guess are connected through the orange somehow. But imagine if they'd done the Nemeziz in the Copa colors in black and orange, then we'd be talking, right?
Yeah, it would look a lot better. And to be fair, this whole pack, I don't have any problem with everything outside of the Nemeziz in this pack. I think there's something to like about all three of the other options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the Nemeziz is at a point now where there's not much they can do in terms of colorways to really make people say, wow, I want that. There's just such little demand on that boot at this point.
Keep talking.
I know he's gonna go and grab the white, black, and gold ones, which they look all right. They're okay, but they're not. I already know which boots you grabbed.
Which boot?
Yeah, the gold ones, the black, white, and gold ones that just came out.
Of course, the atmospheric pack, because it's flipping awesome.
It's okay. I'm not as high on it, man.
Come
I really
on.
like the combination of anything black, gold, and white is always really cool to me.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't love that graphic. I still think the graphic just looks kind of cheap. It's very, like, it's already a football boot that's just so out there in terms of design. And then they put this extra wavy graphic on the surface. I think it's too much. And then also, has Adidas not learned that people hated giant letters, Messi written across the medial side of the boot, and now they just put Nemeziz in giant letters? I don't know, man. It's not.
It's a little bit subtle. I think these are really cool, and the whole split down the middle, and the tolling, and I think the Nemeziz 0.1, as it's called, which is super confusing. We talked about that last time, but it just, I'm down with that. I think it is actually one of the better. And just looking at all the Nemeziz here, I think it's one of the better Nemeziz colorways we've seen in 2020.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm still not in love with it. I really like the ones Messi's wearing right now, which I can't for the life of me remember the pack name, but with the tonal, it kind of fades from orange into like a darker red. I like that. I think what I like about the tonal designs that they've done on the Nemeziz is it shows off the design of the boot in such a way that I think is aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. I think it's a little bit boring because it's too close to that OG Nemeziz 19 colorway, but I get what you're saying. It's not a bad looking boot. It's just a little bit safe, in my opinion. But it is what it is. But definitely, I mean, for me, this is the by far the worst looking Nemeziz they've ever done. I just don't get it.
So we're going to conclude this colorway talk, and I'd like to hear everyone's opinions on these colorways down below in the comments. But I have one final question that I guess we both have to answer here. Okay. Would you rather wear that Nemeziz boot or the eyeball Puma Futures?
But that's a terrible question. Why are you doing this to me?
Just which? And we're not factoring in personal preference in regards to the boots themselves. We're just focusing on colorways. Which colorway would you rather expose yourself to?
I would wear the Nemeziz every single day of the week.
Really? See, I'm exact opposite. 100%. I'd wear the eyeball boots.
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious.
You'd go eyeballs, but this is like the purple on the Nemeziz is at least it's a purple. That is like a little bit of a weak purple. It's like it's like just one of those it looks and the eyeball I look at them and they're kind of funny because they just look stupid, right? Whereas this is at least purposefully out there, if you know what I mean.
Okay, but let's imagine this situation. You're on the pitch wearing your eyeball boots, and the opposing player who's marking you comes up to you, and he tries to initiate a chirp, and he says, "What are you wearing, dude?" And you glance over at him, you look down at your boots, you look at his boots, you look back up at him, and you say, "I'm watching you," and then you just walk away. And you don't say anything else. Think about how intimidated that guy's going to be. You've rattled him for the rest of the match.
I mean, you've taken him out of the match because he's going to spend all of it rolling around the floor laughing his butt off. I mean, I'm watching you.
Right? You have at least you can work with the eyeball boot to have like some pretty solid comebacks. If you're wearing this like rainbow swirl purple and pink thing on your feet, there's really not much. Like, what are you going to say? Yeah, I really like Messi. He's my favorite player.
I'm Aurora, bitch. I know. I mean, you said you can have some really solid comebacks, and you'd work on some really, you need a long time to think of those solid comebacks because the eyeball thing is not very. Yeah, I think, and I thought I was the master of bad dad jokes. That was, I mean, you're gaining on me right there. Okay. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section, right? If you say eyeball boots, I'm done. This is the last episode of the Bootnerds podcast. To be fair, I'd probably rather go out and wear something from 5 years ago than wear any of these colorways. Not for me. Not for me. But let us know in the comment section right down below. But that was the discussion on the Halloween pack and precision. Rating the packs overall, just last question here. Which one would you pick? Which one is the most successful?
You know what? I'm going to say Puma was more successful because I think there was more attention on it. I think people cared more. I don't think people care about this Addy pack.
And yet you're more outraged by the Nemeziz than the Puma boots. Because
look, if we look at that Addy pack, there's a neon yellow X, which I think is probably going to be the most popular boot in that entire pack.
Yeah.
People like that. At this point, I think the Predator colorway variations, people are not that intrigued
but this is
by.
new. This is not just a variation of black and something in it. This is actually bold. For the first time with the Nemeziz so far. It's like, what am I on about? It's
cool.
been a long day.
It's cool, and I like the way they balance the color at the front and back of the boot. It's kind of nice. The Copa is really, like, I feel like they've done that colorway with different colors before.
Pack. This is the exhibit pack just with orange.
Yeah, because they did a yellow one that was almost exactly the same, right?
This is, and the funny, okay, let me just get it. Keep talking.
Oh, he's going to go get it. Yes. Look, I think there's a lot of limitations with the Copa 20 Plus and even the 19 Plus because there's not a whole lot they can do with color combinations on that boot, right? They're pretty much just limited to the leather and then the knitted part. And then doing a third color would kind of be a little bit strange in most situations.
But the funny thing is that it's a copy paste job, and they just changed the Volt or the electric green or whatever it is to orange. The funny thing is that if we take the Copa and the Pred, that would have played together really, really well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have looked nice.
Are they running out of ideas of colorway options? Maybe they just sat down and they looked at, hey guys, what worked last year? Oh, that one, yeah, that Copa was pretty sweet. Let's do it again, yeah?
Yeah. You know what would be really cool now that I'm thinking about it?
Okay.
If they did the black leather on the Copa and then just the white at the back. That would be really nice.
Why haven't they done that?
I don't know. That would look sick. Like, especially if you match that with like white socks. Like that would look so good. That like white Pure Grip socks available at puregripsocks.com. Speaking of which, that picture that we posted on the Pure Grip Socks Instagram account with the orange Pure Grip socks matching those boots.
That was pretty sick, wasn't it? As I posted, a classiness level above 3,000, that was that's a flipping winner. No matter what you do, you can't top that.
That just such a beautiful combination.
Especially, I noted immediately, and a lot of guys posted about it as well in the comments, that the stripe, and that was the cool thing about this stripe from the Copa thing, followed the pure stripe on the sock. That was pretty awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, that's enough colorway talk.
Nice one.
For this video.
We have a lot of questions today that we're just going to go through. We spent actually twice as much time talking colorways as we had agreed on, but that's always fun. So we have one here from.
Also, if you do have a question that you'd like us to answer in an upcoming episode, leave it down below in the comments, please and thank you.
Exactly. We have one from Poet Anderson. Thank you for mentioning that, Josh. Poet Anderson. Why does Nike seem to take a step back with some boots? Hypervenom was a total deviation from Laser 4. Then Phantom Venom deviates back to Laser 4. Then Phantom GT goes back to Hypervenom. They're always going 2 steps forward and 1 back. And that's an interesting question.
I think
we can say the same thing about Adi, right? I mean,
you're now getting into like opinions on what's objectively good or bad based on your own preferences. Right? And somebody that would love the Laser 4 might hate the Hypervenom, but somebody that likes the Hypervenom Phantom 1 might hate a boot like the Laser 4. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. I think any significant design change or concept change in a line of football boots is typically sales related. So T90 Laser, as much notoriety as it had before it ended, Laser 4 from a sales perspective was probably the least popular line from Nike at that point. They transitioned into Hypervenom, completely different direction. And ultimately that ended up being probably the closest competition to a Mercurial in terms of popularity that I think Nike's ever had with a separate line of football boots.
Oh, by a country mile. But the funny thing is you mentioned Nike and, say, yeah, the Phantom GT is someone reminiscent of what the Hypervenom 2 should have been. I think I've said that quite a lot of times. But if we look at Adi, I mean, they have the X-Ghosted. That is probably the real spiritual successor to the F50 Adi Zero. As you can imagine, it would have been if the line had continued. And also the Predator Mutate. I mean, the concept of having rubber spikes rubber grip elements on the boots. It's not exactly new. I mean, that also goes back to the Predator roots, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not just Nike who are doing that, but some brands, some of the biggest brands out there are kind of going full circle, going back to what worked, but in a modernized way. Is that a bad thing? Well, if you want true, pure innovation, does it work? Obviously.
Yeah. There have been so many football boots in human history at this point.
Wow,
that I think I was deciding on how far back to go. I decided, you know what, let's just count all of history.
That's pretty far back.
But there's been so many boots now that I think it's going to be difficult to come out with something that is completely never been seen before, that doesn't utilize any concept, that isn't at least somewhat recycled from the past. And look, I think what's cool about the X Ghosted that you used as an example is it's a synthetic football boot that we've kind of seen almost disappear from the market for a span of 5 years now?
5 years, yeah.
And it's come back, and yeah, there's familiarity versus what it was before, but it's also a pretty big evolutionary step, I would say, in terms of what a synthetic football boot can be and how a synthetic football boot is constructed. So
and maybe that's the thing
there's
that
genuine
I think
progress there
Anderson,
when we're revisiting these things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the what my problem with Nike would be, is that they revisit these boot concepts without really having like a significant technical upgrade, whereas Adidas have gone back to the F50 DNA when they've been able to bring in new innovation to significantly improve what the boot felt like back then. Same with the Predator. You know, we're back to what we got back in the day on the OG Preds, but it's just so much better, and it actually takes the concept a step forward. Did the Phantom Venom do that with the Laser 4? You could argue yes. Did the Phantom GT do that with the Hyper Venom? In some way, yes, but I don't think it's not been a big enough change in terms of innovation and taking that extra step. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's a fair argument to say that maybe the brands revisiting concepts that they killed off at one point and said, hey, this is obsolete, is a little bit contradictory. Because I think what's always being pushed with new boots is this is better than what we were doing before.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just the marketing side of things. Because I talked about this in my recent video of the Phantom GT, which I think is overall a pretty good football boot. But the tech forward, super kind of like never been done before marketing, I guess, narrative that Nike wanted to put out for the Phantom GT.
There. It's not there.
It's far more extreme than what the actual product ends up being.
Well, I don't think like the technical, yes, okay, the way they develop the generative texture, that's a nice story. But in terms of like technology we haven't seen before, such as when Nike introduced the high tenacity yarns and the mercurials, I don't get that vibe in the Phantom G. It's a great boot, very, very, you know, I don't think anyone would really hate on it much, but it's also not it's not mind-blowing in terms of like, it's not a milestone we're going to look back to in 10 years time and say, okay, that really changed the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with Nike, because we were talking about Nike, that's what this initial question was. I think lately, aside from the Mercurial, because I feel like there's genuine progress with the Mercurial with every new generation, most of the time. I think within the brand right now, there seems to be a lot less commitment to taking a big risk. Because look, if you look at Vision, it introduced Quad Fit as like the key technology, and the Quad Fit's really good. But again, it's something that's inside the boot. It's difficult to get people excited about that. And everything else about the Phantom Vision 1 or 2 was pretty straightforward. Like, it's a flying it upper with some texture on the surface. Great. We've seen this how many times now?
Sure.
Right? Tiempo, they just maybe overcomplicated things. Again, didn't really introduce much new to the Tiempo. They just...
and we hated
here's
on
these technologies we already have.
Yeah.
And we made a boot out of it. And then Phantom GT is like, here's a even more simplified boot of what we were already giving you. And we're going to give you this marketing spiel on texture that ultimately is not going to be that noticeable when you're playing in the boots anyways, and say it's the greatest thing ever, right? I think people are starting to see through the marketing of not just Nike, but a lot of these big brands, because again, there's so many past examples to base what they're doing now off of.
Yeah, and that's because there are these jerks on the internet just like completely talking through all the marketing bollocks, but they're nice guys deep down. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and I agree to a certain extent. But let's see what happens in the future with that.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Alejandro A. Best. I've noticed some new colorways of the Copa 20 do not have the fingerprint pattern, and that would be all of the new colorways of the Copa 20 because it doesn't. Does that turn them into a Copa 19? And yes, it does. That is exactly what it does. So we did a bit of digging, and Addy removed the fingerprint pattern because it made the colorways, some colorways a little bit too stiff. So they wanted to maintain that lovely, soft, classy leather touch that you got. Lovely fit. So they basically just took it off, meaning that, here you have a Copa 19 Plus, and here you have a Copa 20 Plus, and it's the same football boot. Down to every inch. It's the same. It's the same boot. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not we've seen this from many brands before.
I mean, the Puma 6.1, a Future 6.1 is the same. It's just had a new outsole, and all of a sudden it's a new generation. So, yeah. It is what it is. So, Marco Man 184, Ghosted Plus or Predator 20 Plus. Don't know which one to buy. I'm going to say this. It depends on what you want. If you want I don't have the Ghosted Plus in the latest colorway with me here, but if you want that really tight, very, very responsive sensation, go for the Ghosted. If you want the most grip you've ever had in a football boot, go for the Preds. Both are decent. I would go for the Ghosteds.
Yeah.
I would say the Ghosteds are the best laceless football boots Addy have ever made.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to go off. For me, when you ask me about laceless boots, my preferences in regards to touch and stud patterns and a lot of things that I would normally consider in a football boot don't matter nearly as much as just the overall fit, because that's what's the big struggle with a laceless boot. And for me, when it comes to fit, the X Ghosted Plus is the best fitting laceless boot they make right now, arguably the best fitting laceless boot ever. So I'm prioritizing fit over everything, because if your boots don't fit properly,
yeah, you're right,
almost everything else doesn't really matter.
That's a perfect response. Whatever Josh just said. So Jilly Reba, a longtime listener of the Boot Nerds podcast. Thank you, my man. So, is the upper of the Vapor 13 stiffer than the Phantom GT? Both of you have said that the GT is basically a wider material, but in the videos, the upper of the material looks very stiff to me. I really wanted to try the Vapor 13, but I can't fully commit to buying it because I like soft and comfortable boots, and as much as I would like to try the material, I keep having second thoughts. So the thing is, Jilly, if you keep having second thoughts about the material, don't buy it. Like there's probably a reason for you having second thoughts. Is it stiffer than the Phantom GTs? I would say no, but it definitely has a little bit more tension to it when you break the boots in. Initially, I would say the Vapors are a bit more flexible, a little bit more. What would you say it? Like it doesn't crumble up as much. It doesn't feel as rigid as the Phantom GT does. It's very pliable, but it feels like when you push your finger down on one point of the upper, it creases a little bit more. So the GT, in my opinion, needs a bit more time to break in and soften up. But once you've done that, the material feels still soft, but it has just a little bit more texture and structure to it in the upper, is how I would say it.
Yeah, I think for me, if you took both of those, if you just cut out a piece of both uppers from the Vapor and the GT, they'd end up being pretty similar in terms of feel and in terms of overall thickness. I think what the difference in the stiffness of the upper in terms of what you're going to feel on your feet has way more to do with the shape and the way that they wrap your foot rather than the material itself, right? Where the GT has so much more width and so much more volume, it's inevitably just going to have more freedom. There's more open area that's not pressed against your foot, which obviously your foot is made of like bone. Your bone's not going to bend. which is why when you put on a Phantom GT and just bend your foot, it creases like crazy, arguably too much. And that has to do with the lacing system as well, not really grabbing as much of the upper on the medial side. So in terms of what ends up feeling more flexible, I definitely think it's the Phantom GT. As far as like softness is concerned, the base material is almost the same on both of these boots. They have similar liners as well. I don't think there's a lot that separates them. I think for me, your choice between a Vapor and a GT has to do with the width of your foot and the type of fit that you want.
Unless you go and buy the Vapor 13 Techcrafts, which is the softest Vapor they've done for years. And that's softer than the GT.
That's really good.
That's just thin leather and Flyknit. That's it.
Yeah, it's really, really soft. But even, you know what? I used to think too that the Vapor, the regular Flyknit one, it's not that soft feeling football boot. But if you put that on one foot and the new Ultra on the other foot, you can tell how much thicker and slightly more padded feeling the Vapor feels versus the thinner Matrix Evo upper on the Puma Ultra.
Definitely.
That is the most, I think, raw knitted upper that you can buy right now.
And it is, but that's also because they've coated each yarn individually. So they don't have to slap on that silicone film on top of it because the yarns are coated themselves. And it offers a very interesting feel on the ball compared to the more traditional way of coating it. But yeah, again, solid reply that, of course, it depends on your foot shape. They're so similar in terms of how they feel and how they break in that I would say, unless you go Techcraft Vapor 13, I would agree that it depends on the shape of your foot. And if you want a slim, tight-fitting boot that's soft, Morelia Neo 3 Beta is the way to go.
Yeah.
You've heard it here first.
If softness is a priority, then you definitely can't beat that.
No. All right, moving on from that, Nolan Daly asks or says, I bought the Superfly 7 instead of the Vapor 13, so I don't get the black bits in my boots. Fair point.
Cool, but do your boots have eyeballs? No. Next question.
But they have ACC, that's better than eyeballs.
Oh, it's true. Oh, but these... Okay. Never mind, I'm not even going to make the joke.
Don't say it.
It's not funny.
No, you say it. Please say it.
You know what? It's not. I was gonna make a C joke because it's ACC. This has it sees so much, but it's not a very good joke. I'm backtracking on it.
That was rough, man.
It was very rough. That's why I didn't say it. Thanks for letting me embarrass myself on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I do that every time I open my mouth, so. Chan, that's a lovely name, Chan. The only times when all three lines were successful and popular was either the Nike in the early... Exactly, I embarrassed myself right after we talked about it. Great. Was either Nike in the early 2010s to 2014 with Mercurials, Tiempo, T90 and Hypervenoms, and lastly CTR 360, later Magista. Adidas has that sort of phase in the late 2000s to early 2010s with the F50 Predator and Adi Pure all being successful and popular, but then, as Josh says, that type of success is quite short. Would you say that, when Nike had the T90s, that it was actually like a popular, successful 4-silo setup?
No. And I only say that based on when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I was scouring every retailer site for which older colorway I could get on sale for the least amount of money. And because I was into T90s, I was very familiar with what was available at the time.
You were the only
one. There was not a single colorway that sold out, which is typically not. That's typically a reflection of a boot not being as popular or not having as much demand as another boot, like a Mercurial, as an example, where 3 months after it came out, you couldn't buy it anymore because they were sold out. And I can assure you that retailers are bringing in way more Mercurials than they were T90s. So.
And I even think that, Adi with the F50 and the Pret, yes, they were very good. Adi Pure?
No. People seem to remember Adi Pure so fondly. Even 11 Pro. It's like, they're good. You can pick whichever one you like, and there were some good boots along the way, but they were never super popular.
No, and I think
from a sales perspective.
The Adi Pure 1 has gained a lot of popularity in retrospect. It's one of those boots that
Yes.
you all of a sudden remember, oh, that was amazing. But back then, I have a pair and I've worn it and it's quite heavy. So if they made a modern one, if they made the same upper with a modern tool, now that would be awesome. But yeah, I don't remember it as being, super strong. 2014 lineup was pretty strong. Pred Instincts, yeah, solid. F50 is very good, but the nitro charges, which is not, and the adidas, nah. I think the only time where we really had a strong lineup was 2013, 14 with the Nike lineup. Legend 5, Hypervenom 1s, Superfly 4, and Magista Opera 1.
Yeah, I think 24. You're right. 2014 was the most successful Nike had been across the board, maybe ever. Yeah, that was a really good time for them.
Monkfish says, I had a good laugh about this. JayMike's Neymar is the Phantom GT color, and he's not wrong. Hey, you haven't mentioned the guy you can't mention in today's video.
No, because I don't need to talk about him in every podcast.
Well, we know that's not true.
Well, I just don't.
Okay.
I just don't.
Well, okay.
Although you know what, I was surprised at how many comments there were in regards to the Scorpion GT, where people said Nike was ripping off Neymar's what was it, natural diamond, the silver Hypervenom,
the liquid
Phantom
diamond,
ones.
yeah,
liquid diamond.
Do they realize that
a lot of people tried to tie those two colorways together, and that never occurred to me until people started saying it, and I still don't really see that connection all that well.
But
it kind of does have the same base pattern, like the chrome with the slightly more matte chrome pattern within it. It's kind of similar.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but then you could also go out and say that, let me think of a good example. That's really tough. That every colorway that looks like something from 5 years ago is a ripoff. I mean, the Scorpion is based on the ball, and maybe to some extent on the chrome white or chrome lime Vapor ones, right? That's the story. So yeah, maybe they took some learnings from the liquid diamond, and I see the similarities, but I'm not buying that it's a ripoff.
Yeah, I was also kind of surprised at the seemingly 50-50 response that colorway got. I really think they're cool.
But the Scorpion logo, man.
I don't know. I like it on the side, and I really like the chrome. We get so many flashy boots these days. Purple with rainbow swirl, purple with green eyeballs. So many of these bold colors. I like how chrome looks very flashy, but then because it's kind of slightly a reflective surface in terms of almost being a mirror, it kind of blends in a little bit. So it's kind of got this, it's very flashy, but it's also a little bit subtle at the same time. I don't know. I really like
Now, for me, that big Scorpion took them down from a 9 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10. I'll be honest. I was pretty disappointed, but because the rest of the boot looks amazing. If remove that Scorpion logo, we're on to a winner. That Scorpion logo just makes them look like a cheap takedown. I don't like it.
Also, a lot of comments as well. Now we're talking about those. Why didn't Nike do a Mercurial in that colorway? And it would make more sense with the story because Mercurials existed back when that commercial happened. You really want to say something, say it.
But that would have been historically incorrect, because if they had done the Vapor 13 in the chrome white or chrome lime colorway, chrome lime, that would technically have but chrome white came out in 2003. Chrome lime came out in 2002 for the World Cup, right? So the whole secret tournament thing went on before any of those came out. What they could have released, in my opinion, was the Cinder White Vapor one that they actually wore in the commercial. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, but even just taking that same colorway concept and just putting it on a Mercurial, where the inspiration is the tournament and not necessarily another colorway, they would have sold a lot more. But that's for sure.
Don't you think they did this because they realized that, okay, this chrome colorway is really awesome. What do we want to, we have this awesome colorway. It's going to sell a lot of boots. What do we want to put it on? Do we want to put it on a new silo, which we really want to do well? Or do we want to put this on a silo where we know that every colorway is going to sell out because it's the Mercurial?
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at. This is them pushing the Phantom GT. to people that may not have wanted it, but because there's such a cool looking colorway, maybe that's going to get them to buy it. Plus, do we really need another limited Mercurial colorway? Like
in chrome? Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what we should do? You know what we should do an episode on, Jay? We should do an episode once the Vapor 13 and Superfly 7 generation is done. Maybe even before that. We need to go over every single one. Because it's got to be close to 40
That's
now.
a long episode, man.
Right? Like, how many colorways? Like, we should just rate every single colorway of this generation of Mercurial.
I like that idea. Let's do that next time.
Right? If we can even manage to, like, not forget one. Because there's so many of them. It's actually mind-blowing how many colorways Nike have put out for this generation of Mercurial. It's sick.
I'm just looking back at my shelf here, right? And I don't know how much you can see. I've got like, there's a lot of boots in one shelf. And I've got like 4 shelf spaces full of the latest generation Mercurials. 4.
Like, even just remembering back, because I just recently kind of sort of finished organizing the SR4U boot room. And I'm going back and I'm like, I completely forgot about these. Like, the first month that the new generation of Mercurial launched,
wasn't it?
I think there was like 5 or 6 colorways. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, we got the what was it called? The blue one.
There was the blue ones, the blackout ones, the kind of orangey yellow ones,
orangey limited
the
ones,
China ones.
The Singles Day pack. Then we also had the Speed Freaks that came out pretty quickly.
Oh, I can't even. Been trying to remember the names. Oh my God. But that would be an interesting episode.
Yeah, so let us know if you wanna see that. Let's scratch that. We're just gonna do it next time, and you can complain in the comments if you don't want to see it. But also, if you have any comments or questions to either the Adidas Precision to Blur pack or that. I wanted it. It's good for Halloween because it could basically match that. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Don't even know the lyrics anymore. Somebody's watching me. Yeah, I'm gonna cut that out.
I see you.
Yeah. But anyways, if you have any comments about that or questions you'd like us to answer, put them in the comment section right down below. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the Boot Nerds podcast yet, you can do so by clicking the white bubble in the middle of your screen so you get a little notification every time we drop a new video. If you haven't liked the video already, please do so. It's going to help us tremendously. And finally, you can go and check out what Josh and I are up to on our respective other channels by clicking the bubbles over our heads. And with those words, I've been JayMike, and I approve this message. Don't make an eye joke. Don't make an eye joke.
I won't. See you later.
Oh, man. My God.